Hello, welcome back. We're going to spend the next few minutes today taking a look at nothing less than the natural state of the mind, what it naturally is like. What else? And we're also going to spend some time considering the idea that we made all of this up, because that is exactly what has happened, apparently. Why do I say apparently? Well, because all of this never did, in fact, happen. Ideas leave not their source. Thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker, and you are the thought of God. You remain in the mind of the thinker. Okay, we can all put this down now, right? Well, in practice, as we're bombarded, literally bombarded with what we call day-to-day life, it's very easy to lose sight of the sheer simplicity of these teachings. And that's why it's imperative to come back to them again and again, as many times as we can and must, until we get it. And it not only informs our experience, but it becomes our experience. And we realize that this is our natural state, and we've never left our source. Oh, yes, capital S. When you hear these teachings for the first time, there's often a tremendous amount of confusion. So, to the extent that that informs your current experience, I get that. And the reason that these very simple teachings are apt to be confusing to us is because they are aimed to completely reverse our thinking. We think things are a certain way, and they're not. And this course teaches us the exact opposite of the way we've been conditioned. We've been conditioned to think this 80% water sack of guts and some bones and some cartilaginous tissue and stuff is you. We're conditioned to think that when we look in the mirror, this is me. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's who I am. It's the Son of God. All right. Finite, completely limited, frail, and destined to lose all his vitality and die. That's how we're conditioned. Sad, yes, but that's where we appear to find ourselves. Again, appear to find ourselves. And we've spent the past few conversations, the past few days here, considering the highest and best use of this communication device. It's exactly that. It's a communication device which we would do very well to give over to our inner teacher, the Holy Spirit, for his purposes. In other words, for healing the mind and extending love to our brother. This, all that we see here in the world, including the world itself and what we call the universe and solar systems and galaxies, it's a dream. It is. It's a dream. When we're asleep here in the world and we dream, the images in the dream can seem very real, can't they? In fact, we even experience physical sensations from time to time in the dream, be they pleasurable or painful. And we hear sounds and we do all kinds of things in the dream, and it seems real to us until we wake up and we realize that never was there to begin with. Guess what? Never was here to begin with. And none of this was ever truly here to begin with. So it's quite natural to wonder, why would we ever do this? It makes sense that we'd ask that question given our conditioning to think that we're a human body and to think that our experience is governed by this invention called linear time, where one moment blends into the next in a succession for which we invent calendars and we label one year as different from another. 2023 AD, according to the Gregorian calendar, which is just one of many calendars. I mean, some dudes got together and made it up a long time ago. It's made up. Like everything in this world, including the world itself. And yes, mind is that powerful. It can make worlds. Here's the beautiful part. It can unmake them. You could choose to wake up at any time. And wouldn't it be great if we could all be completely enlightened in a blinding flash right now, just like that? And there wouldn't be any more use for this video, which is a good thing, because we'd all be awake in God. So you might rightly ask, why did we do this? We didn't. This never happened. It's actually impossible for there to be any separation of any kind. The natural condition of the mind is total abstraction. Total. In other words, there are no distinctions. There are no specifics. There is no specificity. There's no individuality. It's totally abstract. It may take multiple readings of this material. It may take multiple views and hearings of this material for the magnitude of this thought to really sink in. And it's true. Mind is completely and totally abstract. There are no specifics. There is no separation of any kind. When we identify with the ego, which we do here in the world, where we see ourselves as separate from our brother, from all other living things, where we see ourselves as separate from God, which is impossible. When we see ourselves in all of these specific, impossible situations, it appears that there are many situations. It appears there are 8 billion of us, plus all of the other countless life forms on this planet. It appears that there are other planets. It appears that there are other solar systems and galaxies and billions of stars when we look into the night sky. It appears there's multiplicity. Well, when we identify with the ego, when we see ourselves as separate, we see billions and billions of separate parts, each of them a specific part. This is a specific person. You are a specific person in the eyes of the ego. Individual, self-sustaining survival unit, cut off from all of your fellow individual self-sustaining survival units, sometimes communicating with one another, sometimes in cooperation, oftentimes in competition or combat. Separate. The mind, in its natural state, is completely and totally abstract. This is what we mean when we say repeatedly that there is no separation of any kind. There is only perfect oneness. Total abstraction is not aware of differences, is it? It's not possible. This is our natural state, to recognize no differences, no levels, no gradations, no divisions, nor subdivisions, nor subdivisions of subdivisions, no distinctions, no separation of any kind. This is the natural state of mind. This is our natural state. What are we doing here on this journey that we call the spiritual path, which actually isn't really a journey at all because we've never left our source. So we're not going anywhere. But what's very important to understand here in the world when we appear to be this thing and we have need of differences and contrasts so that we can make the choice that's there for us to make between the Holy Spirit or the ego, between God or the ego, between love or fear, life or death. Which would you rather have? Yeah, truth or illusion, however you choose to characterize that. In order for us to make this decision, we need to recognize that one decision is going to lead us to truth. The other keeps us stuck in suffering. Now, truth, reality, simply is. So again, we're not actually journeying to it. If it is helpful for you as you practice this material to view your spirituality as a path, as a walk, a sprint, a marathon, I don't know, a 10K, whatever, right? Whatever that is. If it's helpful for you to view it as a journey, then do that. Go ahead and view it as a journey. But understand that we're not really going anywhere because we've never left our source. And what we call the path is merely clearing the veil that we've placed over our eyes. Now, that's perhaps the most useful analogy to what we call the spiritual path and practice. It's an unlearning, it's lifting a veil. We've interposed a veil or a wall, if you want to see it that way, between ourselves and truth. And we're simply removing that under the guidance of our inner teacher. Here's why the practice of true forgiveness is so important in A Course in Miracles, and why, indeed, it forms the foundational centerpiece of the practice of this course. That's because to know one part of the whole truly is to know it all. There is no separation of any kind. There are no parts in truth. So here, while there appear to be parts, when you know one part totally, you know the whole totally. There is no separation of any kind. When you have truly forgiven one brother, you've truly forgiven them all, which quite naturally includes yourself. Why? There's no separation of any kind. To know even one brother truly as he is to know us all as we are, to know yourself as you are. Hence, the emphasis on true forgiveness that this course is so known for. This is how we do it. This is how we set the ego aside through our true forgiveness of the Son of God. And while we're at it, the ego itself, forgive the ego. It's nothing. Remember, there's no separation of any kind. There's no separation. It's nothing. Forgive it. It's nothing. Forgive the world. That too is nothing. Forgive space, time, anything that crosses your experience that is not wholly joyous. Anything that is not wholly joyous is not of God, and it is an opportunity for you to truly forgive it. So whenever we're aware of this, we forgive. And you may sense what's coming next. Emphasis on awareness, the present moment awareness. Here is why meditation is a thing in world spiritual traditions. I mean, it's a thing modernly in pop culture too, which is a good thing because it's going to lead people to awakening. When? Who knows? Who knows? It's important because of this need for present moment awareness. If you're not aware that you're digging yourself a further hole or spinning around, how can you possibly be expected to do anything constructive about it? You can't. So we become aware that we have a forgiveness opportunity. What are the exercises in the workbook for students but meditation sessions? It's what they are. We become aware that we want the peace of God, and we pay attention and we become aware of everything that's transpiring in what appears to be the world outside us, which is really all taking place in our mind. Why we made this up. Ideas leave not their source, remember? All of this world is in your mind. So while we appear to be here, the purpose of this course is for us to see all of this as totally benign and loving. That's learning to perceive truly. We learn to perceive our brother as ourself, as one with God. We learn to see things as they are. The Course refers to that as true perception. It also refers to it as the real world. Well, there's no world. The real world doesn't last long, because when we learn to perceive truly and look on everything as wholly benign and radiant and loving, that meets the condition for what we call knowledge, which in other words is awakening. It's knowing God. Our true perception is easily translated into the knowledge of our being, one with God, at home in God, one with God. Now, this is quite natural. Perception is very easily translated into knowledge at the end. It's automatic. But first, we must learn to perceive truly. So this general idea that mind is totally abstract and it is not specific, can be very, very helpful to us. Specificity is separation. It's separating one fraction from another fraction. It's separating one piece of the whole, carving a whole which can't be carved, but we think it can be carved. So we carve it up into billions and billions of little pieces that appear to stand out because we want to see them as standing out. What happens when you want to see them as one? What happens when you want the peace of God and only that? What then do you see in your experience? Yeah, you are that powerful. You've never left your source. You've never left your source. So, in conclusion today, I hope that this heartens you. I do. I hope that you take heart in this, in the power and the magnitude of this message. And if you're brand new to the course, welcome. And if you've been here for 30 years practicing this material, again, welcome. Long-term practitioners are invited to treat every single video, every single communication with our inner teacher, every single workbook lesson, every single paragraph of the text, every single encounter with this material, as though it's the first time we've encountered it. In other words, we come in with what in Zen Buddhism is referred to as beginner's mind. It's a concept that's very helpful. We come in without any preconceived notions, not thinking that we've got it made and not thinking that we know it all, but rather with a clean slate upon which our inner teacher writes his meaning. That's the point. All right. Thank you, as always, for joining me here today. The subscription button's the arrow here in the corner of your screen. If you haven't joined us, go ahead and click on that. We'd love to have you. There are several videos that appear here each week. We're going through the text of A Course in Miracles, and well, we're in the midst of chapter 8 out of 31, which means there's plenty more to discuss, and there always is. So along the way, if you have comments or questions, please feel welcome to leave them. Please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll chat right here. Thank you so much, and I will see you very soon.